Now, how would you like to learn what it took me about 15, 20 years to learn in this 5-minute video? I'm going to show you how to replace a crappy old MDF windowsill with a much more beautiful, highly durable wooden windowsill. Now, the first step here is to remove the old MDF sill, and it is going to be in there pretty good. I'm not going to lie. You're going to want to cut any caulking that might be holding it to the wall. I'm not going to bother cutting the caulking along the back for right now. Hopefully I won't need to. And then to make things easier, I'm going to cut this windowsill in half, and then hopefully it can come out like this, and I can save the delicate drywall and corner bead. To do that, I'm going to use a skill saw. I'm going to set the blade just below the bottom part of the sill. That way I'm not going to cut into the framing. I'm going to hook up my skill saw to a vacuum, and I'm going to cut that as far as it will go. Finish off the cut, I'm going to use my multi-tool with just an all-purpose wood blade in there. Now to remove that, just grab your pry bars, hammer, anything else you can think of. Some implements are definitely going to work better than others. Pry that up in the middle and start reefing it out. Just be careful that you're not going to damage that quarter bead. And if you have any spots where there is any caulking that's still attached to the wall, slip that utility knife in there and just cut that free. Those weren't really in there all that tough. I thought it might be a little more difficult. It was basically just some 18 gauge nails, but cutting it in the middle made it a lot easier. Then this little piece, trim piece up front, I'm just going to check underneath and make sure that it is not caulked to the drywall. Tearing the drywall is one of the worst things you can do here. You want to just be very careful. And it was super easy to pop that off. Now I just need to clean up any of that caulking that is still attached to the drywall and the back of the window frame. A utility knife is really kind of the best tool for the job here. This is kind of dangerous, and you can do about the same kind of a job with a 2-inch putty knife. So if you're not comfortable with cutting yourself, which I have with the utility knife multiple times, so you can see what a nice job that the utility blade does when you extend it out. And I definitely put eye protection on when I'm doing this. Those blades have a tendency to snap off, and they can fly and could potentially stick right into your eye. Along the back window frame, the 2-inch putty knife is just magical, and I wouldn't use the utility knife here because you might cut into the vinyl and damage it, and it just slides off like butter with the putty knife. So the material that I'm going to use here is a primed pine window stool with an 1.25-inch bullnose. I've used this on dozens of other projects when I was a finishing carpenter. The problem is it does not come wide enough. So I had to buy some extra, rip it down, glue it together, biscuits, glue, sanding. Total gong show, but I've got the piece now and it does look really nice. Now to mark this piece out is the tricky part. You could definitely go about it with a framing square, but I'm actually going to just use the old pieces of the old windowsill. And now you can see they didn't exactly fit this the best. It's a difficult thing to do here with the depth and wrapping around the corner bead. So I'm actually going to take a sharp pencil and a little shim and just kind of scribe out some new marks. I'll take that down to the garage. I will cut it, skill saw, table saw, a little bit of belt sanding to the lines, bring that back up here, and I did an okay job. The pieces are fitting a lot better. There's a little bit of a gap still around that corner bead area. So I'll line the template up on the back, and when I'm marking out that little side piece, I'll just give it an extra little bit of space, hopefully get a tighter fit here. To figure out the overall distance of how far that sticks past, I'll use the casing that I'm going to put on after this, and then go 3/4 inch past that. To figure out where I need to put the other template, I'm just going to measure corner bead to corner bead and then line that up with the mark and the back. And then I'll mark that same distance past on the side there. And now this is the point where I am confused and wondering if I maybe have the windowsill sticking out a little too far. I'm wrestling. We've all been there before, but I ended up taking it down, cutting off 1/4 inch. Then I had to remake the marks and the little squiggly line. And I'm going to cut this out with a jigsaw and a fine cutting wood blade. Just keep to the line as close as you can. Then I'll finish that up with the belt sander. Now I have to cut the returns on this sill, and that's going to be a little tricky here. If you had a slide saw, it's easier. And especially if the windowsill isn't so deep, a lot easier. To get it done on this saw, I'm going to use a little piece of 2x4 on the back to move the piece out so I don't cut into the body of the sill. And then I'm also going to put a little piece down there to support this thing from flopping around. put some eye protection on here and just kind of get everything stabilized before you attempt this cut. It's a dangerous cut, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm bringing it up, and this is the part where we figure out just how good of a carpenter I am. Will this thing fit? That would be embarrassing if it didn't. And you can see it fits pretty dang nice. It's not the greatest fit that I've ever done in my life, but it is pretty good. So I know that it fits. I'm gonna take that out. I'm gonna check it for level now with my laser. And I didn't know this, but the window is actually pretty off level, but the actual window itself is also off level. So I'm gonna kind of follow that, but I'm gonna put a few shims in the front right corner just so that it's kind of level from front to back and make it look as good as possible. Now, the previous sill was nailed with just 18 gauge nails, and I'm just gonna use the same. You could definitely go like a 16 or a 15 gauge nail, or even put a headless screws in there. And if there wasn't a vapor barrier, I might have even thrown a little PL Premium in just to make this thing rock solid. But you know what? As my Uncle Chuck always said, this thing is not going to fall up. And yeah, he screamed that at me once when I was putting too many nails in a windowsill back, I don't know, 20 years ago or something. So I'm just gonna use a few 18 gauge nails here. Once that's nailed in, now is the time to measure the little return pieces. To cut these, you just need a little bit of extra material, rip it off the front edge there, and then you're gonna cut a return. Make sure you cut off enough length here that you're not cutting really small rinky-dink pieces, which can be dangerous. Get those cut. To install those, I'm going to use CA glue and activator. You could use wood glue and some tape. I wouldn't nail these on because they can split and they can shift around. So gluing them is the way to go. Tape and wood glue or the CA is the easiest, quickest way to do it. And yeah, you can see those turned out beautiful. Give them a little sand up. The piece on the bottom, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do there. How big did I want to make it? So I did 3 kind of variations and stood back and figured I'm gonna go with the smallest version. So to cut that piece there, went down to the garage, ripped it down on the table saw, cut a longer piece that I needed. Then I cut off the little returns, 45'd, glued the little returns on there with the CA and activator, brought it up. Now to get that overall width, you just wanna go outside to outside of your casing. To transfer the line down, I ended up using the laser with the vertical line, nailed in place with the 18 gauge nailer. And hey, if you want to see how this thing finishes up with the casing surrounding it, the caulking and the painting, you're going to want to check out this video way over there. If you're ever wondering why I really don't get a lot done here at my house, it's because it's been 2 days and I basically have removed the windowsill. That's like a 5-minute job, but filming every single aspect of it, it just makes it take forever. I enjoy it, but you do get a little bit sad sometimes at how slow things go.